Hello all, welcome to my YouTube channel Simplifying Security. Today I'll be talking about topic which is all about XSS, and XSS is also known as cross-site scripting. So it's a 2 decade old vulnerability which you still see in some of the today's application. And even if you're attempting any interviews with respect to information security or application security, you may come across the question from interviewer like what is XSS, what are the different types, and about all this I'll be sharing some information. So be with me and let's get started. And before I start, there's some information about myself, like who I am and how my cybersecurity and information security journey looks like, what companies I have worked for, what certificates I have acquired. So some information about me. Okay, so this will be our today's agenda. I'll be talking about XSS, or XSS over the years, type of XSS, some common attack scenarios, and a quick demo about each of these types of XSS, and some prevention techniques, and some real life examples, and some XSS mitigation checklist. Okay, so what is XSS? So XSS is a security vulnerability which can be found in web application. So when attacker injects any malicious script into a web page, it get executed when other users view that page or as a part of that page, that scripts get executed. So what can happen? Like, so if that script gets executed, attacker can steal sensitive information or deface the website, or it can redirect the users to malicious site. So that all can happen. And how it actually works. So when accesses occurs right in a web application, so whatever untrusted data what user like attacker or adversary has provided, it can then send back to the browser for its execution. So when that script or data what it's sent by attacker is get executed at the page when it's being rendered, it allow attackers to like access tokens or like steal cookies or like any other sensitive data from user's browser. um, uh, how it's important. So I was talking about like if this issue exists like from past 2 decades, it's still critical because still you see applications are found vulnerable to this issue. So that's really important to mitigate this issue in today's world because there are so many different techniques available to mitigate this issue. And if you're not mitigating, then this just small simple flaw can also lead to data breaches and can damage the business reputation. So that's why it's very important to fix this XSS vulnerability in your environment. Okay, so if you see like over the years, like how this flaw is in the market, right? So if you see like in 2003, this issue was there. In 2010, the same issue with cross-site scripting was there. In 2013, and it still like in 2017 it was there. And in 2020, 21, it's being merged in some other category. So the issue still persists. Okay, so what are types of accesses? So there are on high end, like there are three types of accesses. Like one is where you when you have like stored accesses, where which the name signifies like it's being stored, right? So whatever the data is being injected in any of the parameter, it's being stored in the web application in its database, or maybe in any of the storage they are mechanism they are using there. So if whatever scripts provided, it it's gets stored in the database, and whichever page calls that data for rendering, the on all those pages the same execution of the script will happen. So that's how it's stored accesses. The other one is like reflected accesses. In this, like the data will be temporarily stored in the variables. It won't get stored in the database or like in any of the permanent database which is maintained by web app. It generally it happens like the field which you are trying to maybe could be a search field where you just put the data, it goes to the server and reflect back to you. So whatever you are injecting will come and reflect back to you, like, and it can be a self access sometimes because whatever you are injecting as a payload in any of the fields, it goes to server, there are no validation, it bounces back to you and it get executed at your end. And sometimes there are ways like for at execution, if there are certain parameters which are going as a part of URL, where you put that XSS payload as a part of URL, you put it, give it to a victim. The moment it clicks, the data will be stolen from his end and will be shared with the or redirected to the adversary. Okay, so the third category would be DOM-based accesses. So inside, like what happened, it's majorly also known as like a client-side accesses, where you input the data in any of the parameter which is vulnerable to DOM accesses. So the usually DOM happens at the client side itself, like it's a document object model which is maintained by browser and the client side, and where like it has a temporal execution of any accesses. So if any parameter which is being used as a part of DOM and it's taking user input, then it can also be infected with accesses. So the fix is pretty much common for all. I'll be talking about that, but yeah, these are on high level these three different type of accesses. Okay, so I'll just quickly start some demo about it, like how we can actually test these accesses when we have an app with us, and let's get started. Okay, so I have a app um, which is known as Diva, damn vulnerable web application, which I have hosted in my environment. So let's start with how reflected accesses can be tested in an environment. Okay, so let's see, like there is a parameter which if you see, like if you type just test and see how it reacts. So this field reacts like whatever we are typing in this test field, text field, it's bouncing back to us. Like if we type test and it bounced back to us. So this field could be vulnerable to reflected cross-site scripting. So let's pass some standard script which will give us alert box. Okay, so I have one script. So this script tags like are these HTML based script tags which will allow or ask browser to execute this and pop up a alert to us. So if this script get successfully executed, we'll get a pop up and that will signify us like this field is vulnerable to reflected cross-site scripting. Let's see. Let's try to submit it. Okay, so whatever we did, like so, the same alert pop-up is being popped to us, like and prompted to us, and we can see like, yes, the script is actually getting executed in this. So this field is actually vulnerable to reflected cross-site scripting. So just for testing purpose, I'm showing you the pop-up, but in real world, like it won't be just a pop-up. It will be like some action be performed like on maybe on attacker's behalf to this web app, so that maybe a session token of user can be stolen and sent back to the like the attacker side, or maybe sensitive information like could be cookie would be sent back to the browser, which can later be used in upcoming stages of attack. Okay, so this is for simplicity. This is how cross-site reflected cross-site scripting will look like. So next we can look for the stored one, and we'll see how actually different it is. So we have maybe a form here. Let's see, and whatever we'll fill in this form will get stored in on the server. Let's see if this information. See, so this information is actually getting stored at the server, and we can also see in this area. So even if I reload this page, the information will still be there. It won't go away even when I log out or log in from the application, right? So this information will persist. So that's the reason this stored access is also sometimes known as persistent cross-site scripting. Okay, so let's see. Rather than providing any valid input, we can also provide some script. Let's see if that works over here. So, okay. Again, we'll create a pop-up so that it will give us confirmation. Yeah, our scripts are getting executed, and that will tell us like whether this field is actually vulnerable to store cross-site scripting. Okay, so if you see, like we instead of providing any valid input, we just inserted a script which got executed. This signifies like this field is actually vulnerable to cross-site scripting, and this is called stored because if you see here, like our message is not being shown over here properly because this area contains our its script. Because browser is treating it like a script rather than an input and it getting it executed. So that's why we are seeing a blank over here. And even if I reload this page, so wherever or like whosoever will load this page on their browser end will get this script executed at their end. So if I just see if I can reload this and whosoever will execute this page again and again will get this execution of this script. Okay, so this is stored accesses and stored because it's getting stored at the server. And the third one would be our DOM accesses. Okay, so if you see here, like there's a feature where we can change our language. So suppose our default is showing as English. Let's try to see if we can select the French. And if we see here, like when we are selecting this as a French, the value of this parameter named as default is changing at the server, right? Uh, so uh, so I think we can try tweaking this parameter from the browser and see like if it's actually creating any script execution for us. So let's see if we can create a test and see like if this we can have a privilege to change the value of this variable. So we can see like yes, we are able to add now test as a our like one of the choose to value here, and we can play with it. So instead of test, if we start like just putting out like a normal cross-site scripting payload and see like if any of the execution works here. So if you see, okay, so if you see like we are able to play with DOM also. Like so this value was nowhere going to server, but it was being used by our DOM on the browser side and was allowing us to choose the value from the list. And based on that value, it's changing the value or changing the language for us. Where you can see like yes, this blank signifies again yes, our script is placed over here and it's getting executed whenever we are selecting this value. All the data is not at all going till server, but yeah, it's being executed as part of our this browser store itself. So this is the third type of accesses. Okay, and let's move on with our presentation. So we are done with the demo. So what are the common attack scenarios? So I just showed you a couple of field like where the attacks like this accesses can be found or it can be checked in the app. So these are not all areas where you can check, but there could be more than these areas where you can check for these accesses. You can check for any body parameter. You can check for any uh, maybe hidden parameter value. So you can check for any of the parameter which are flowing in the those HTTP requests, um, right? So what are the like what are the common attack scenarios now? So any like user unsanitized input like which is coming as a part of web form can be exploited and can be injected with malicious scripts. So those are vulnerable areas where there is possibility of this attack to be like performed or can be exploited. So how does all it starts like in real world, like if someone has to like pray someone and like maybe they want to attack someone and try to steal. So it's all start with again a phishing, like where attacker sends a link containing malicious website that exploits to XSS vulnerability. Suppose you found a app which is actually vulnerable to XSS, and then you craft its payload and send it in a phishing to a browser to a recipient and ask them to click on that particular link. And once they click on that link, maybe their cookies or maybe their redirection will happen to a malicious site. So if they are landed and their credentials could be compromised on those sites if they don't did do their due diligence over there, right? So that's what be the scenarios like what happens with accesses in real world. Okay, so what are the prevention techniques? So one of the finest prevention technique is like you have to encode each and every user input what you are getting as part of user input. Like when server receives those inputs, they should validate those input, and they can encode those inputs so that when the data is being shared with the browser, for it won't get executed. Rather, it's being treated as a normal data rather than it's being shown or like treated as a script to the browser. So for that, output encoding will play a very vital role over there. And second would be like whitelist validation should be there at the server side, not at the client side, because client side validation can easily be bypassed. Okay, so these are some of the prevention techniques can be used. And there are real life examples like where this XSS has actually created a bigger issues. Like there was an issue with Twitter, like where it was allowing user to like there was a parameter which was vulnerable to XSS, and it was allowing like adversaries or like attacker to tweet on behalf of some other users and spreading a spam links. WhatsApp incident also happened. It was allowing sending malicious messages on behalf of users, and there was a banking website which was being compromised, and that fall into like stealing login credentials and financial information of victims. So there are some of these examples which we have seen like associated with accesses. Okay, so what are the mitigation, like how this issue can be mitigated? One would be like implement a content security policy, like to restrict the external resources, because if you are not able to redirect any user to any external URL which is not allowed as a part of content security policy, then you can mitigate this issue till certain level. You cannot 100% fix it, because the payload can also be hosted inside your internal environment, and where uh, your CSP will not restrict it, right? So uh, this is one of the way, like we say defense in depth. So this could be one of the defenses. If one fails, the other would come in picture and will save your apps. That would be you can continue doing the security testing and code reviews, like to identify and remediate the excesses in the environment or in the web apps you maintain. That's one of the other strategy. And you can also update like the patch web applications to address known web vulnerabilities, where there are other components of your maybe web app which maybe not be directly associated with the XSS, but there could be certain libraries you are using, but those are infected with the XSS, and you are using the component of or the functionality of those libraries in your environment. Then also that it gives rise to this sort of issue. So it's good to patch your servers based on the known vulnerabilities. These are some of the things I wanted to talk to you folks. And thank you for watching. And if you feel like this information is valuable, you learned something out of it, do follow my YouTube channel, Simplifying Security. And thank you. If you have reached till here, please give a like or share your comments in the comment box. Thank you.